People, Cotton Watts and Chick.
Lady, let that be a lesson to you.
What's the matter with you boys shooting up that man's hen house?
I'll shoot any chicken trying to follow me home.
Well, why don't you get a job and go to work?
You almost had me a job this morning.
Where?
I went down to the post office and asked that man, could he let me have one of them jobs as a letter toter?
No, Cotton, you mean a mail carrier.
And the man said before he could give me a situation, he'd have to put me through a simple self-examination.
No, stupid. You mean a civil service examination.
Well, the man carried me in a little room and set me down and started asking me a gang of questions.
Well, what'd he ask you?
First thing the man asked me is, how far is it from the sun to the moon?
He asked you how far it was from the sun to the moon?
Yeah, that's what the man asked me.
Well, what'd you tell him?
I told him if he was going to give me that route, I didn't want the job.
Well, tell me, how would you like to go to work for me?
Yes, ma'am. How much you going to pay me, I hope?
Well, let's see now. I'll pay you all your work.
No, ma'am. I got to have some money.
You know, Cotton, I'm making a picture called The Lion Tamer.
The Lion Tamer?
Uh-huh.
There ain't but one kind of lion I'll mess with.
What kind's that?
Ooh, that's a dandelion.
Now, all I want you to do is meet me at the zoo in the morning at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, with the rest of the monkeys.
With the rest of the monkeys.
Yeah, I'll bring my grandpa with me.
I want to get a moving picture of you in the lion's cage.
Well, if you ever do get a picture of me in a lion's cage, it'll be moving all right.
Oh, Cotton, the lion can't hurt you.
Can't hurt me. Well, nobody can make me hurt myself.
Why, the lion's tame. He'll eat right off your hand.
Eat off of your hand and off of your leg, too. I know them cats.
Oh, but you don't understand, Cotton. The lion was raised on milk.
Raised on milk? I was, too, but I eat pork chops now.
Why, he can't bite you.
Now, how come he can't bite me?
He hasn't got a tooth in his head.
I know, but he can gum me to death. I don't want him gnawing on me.
Now, all I want to do is snap you as you enter the lion's cage.
You just want to snap me as I enter?
Yes.
Well, you better snap me as I enter, because you will never be able to focus me when I start out, because I'm Alabama bound.
Well, hello, and welcome to the Philboyd Studge Show.
Why is it the Philboyd Studge Show?
Well, Matt, that's a good question. And I think that if Donald Trump can be the Republican nominee, why Ward 13 can be the Philboyd Studge Show.
I say fair enough.
Hello, this is the Philboyd Studge Show. That Mr. Studge couldn't be here. Okay, Tom, quiet down. I know you got very excited about the inaugural, the preview. We made history today.
Yes.
You know, Mr. Studge is the master of ceremonies. What do they call him? The Toastmaster General.
Okay.
What's that estate? Margot Lay or something? Frito-Lay, down in Florida?
Mar-a-Lago?
Is it Mar-a-Lago? Hey, you were from High Wasp, Tom. Who used to own Mar-a-Lago?
I don't know.
Mar-a-Lago.
I think you got it right. I think it's Mar-a-Lago.
It was like one of the tobacco heiresses or something.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a special jacket, the orange jacket. I couldn't find it today. I think Joel might have snatched it.
Probably.
But, I'm wearing this.
It's very nice.
Philboyd Studge.
It's a very nice jacket.
One thing you can be sure of, whoever owned it before, it got classier when Donald Trump took over.
Tom Massengale, I didn't even hear you. Do you know what we taught? If people think it's far-fetched, we'll remind people that at the 1981 inaugural of Reagan, there was a minstrel act. Ben Vereen singing the Robert E. Lee in blackface.
That is incredible. So that was 1981. That's stunning to me. See, I didn't know that.
You didn't? Well, now you do. Hey, John, can we see the number 2, picture number 2? Blackface has a great tradition with Republicans. That's the late Lee Atwater, who was the architect of George H.W. Bush's victory over Mike Dukakis.
Oh, yes. He was the architect of the Willie Horton thing, if I remember
correctly.
Right,
and
yeah.
he was he's from Mississippi.
Yep.
Sunflower County, Mississippi.
Yeah.
In fact. And
he's dead now. He died of a brain tumor.
Oh, yeah.
A while ago.
As Marco Rubio would say, God has spoken.
Yes.
And speaking of God, you made a comment late last night when I invited you on the Philboyd Studge Show.
Yes.
After I had this historic opportunity.
Yes.
What is it that you would like to say about Christianity?
I've come to the conclusion that there's no such thing as Christianity.
And I responded, well, I'm a Protestant. And then I thought about it and said, maybe you're right.
Well, here's how I came to this conclusion. I've often talked on my show about how most Christians practice what I call ironic Christianity, where they call themselves Christians while actively trying to have as little to do as possible with anything Christ said. And then I realized that nobody actually follows what Christ said or what's in the Bible. For example, Christians tend to be very pro-war. It's right in the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not kill. They love the death penalty. It says in the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not kill. Plus, Jesus said a lot of...
To be fair, that's Old Testament.
Right, but it's but they ignore everything, Old Testament, New Testament, whatever. They ignore everything that's inconvenient to them, and they hyper-focus on one very specific thing.
What's that?
I forget which book it is, in the Old Testament where it says, man shall not lay with man. They're totally obsessed with that one thing, which means all the gays are going to hell, and everything else that it's just too inconvenient for them, they just blow it off. So, what was it Gandhi said? It's not that I don't like your Christ, I don't like your Christians.
He said, I like Christ, I don't like Christians. And
right.
He said the Sermon of the Mount every night before he went after his meditation.
Yeah.
And he studied with Paramahansa Yogananda, who synthesized Hinduism and Christianity in a discipline called Kriya Yoga.
Okay.
And he's actually my guru, and I often say my guru's on the cover of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, because he was George Harrison's too.
Right. Yeah.
And
but I just figure, how can there be Christianity if there are no Christians? There just are none. So therefore, there is no Christianity. That's the epiphany that I've had.
Well,
it doesn't exist.
We are going to have a short musical interlude, and then we'll be back to talk politics with Thomas Massengale from London, a Bernie Sanders supporter,
yes,
and our libertarian friend, Matt Connarton.
Yes.
Can
I'm a libertarian,
we see too. Video B?
Have faith, hope, and charity. That's the way to live successfully. How do I know? The Bible tells me so. Do good to your enemies, and the blessed Lord you're surely pleased. How do I know? The Bible tells me so. Don't worry about tomorrow, just be real good today. The Lord is right beside you, He'll guide you all the way. Have faith, hope, and charity, that's the way to live successfully. How do I know? The Bible tells me so.
Well, I think we had enough of Dale Evans. We also have the Roy Rogers version.
Oh, good.
Now, anybody wants to call in, it's 413-0223. And we actually have another version of the inaugural. on an MP4, so the lips and the sound might match up.
Ah, yes, that's important.
Although I'm voting for the out of sync version.
This show gets better and better.
It does. The Philboyd Studge Show. Hey, let's have Trumpy Cat on the background.
Yes.
There, that's the new mascot of the Philboyd Studge Show.
He's
And maybe Ward 13 too.
He's even the same color as Trump. Orange.
He come on your show next week.
Who, Trump or Trumpy Cat?
Trumpy Cat.
I love cats, but I don't know if this particular cat is very friendly.
That cat is Donald Trump. Hey, what do you guys think of the African-American preacher? Was he thumping the tub for Trump and said that Bernie has to come back to Jesus?
Oh, I heard that clip.
Was Bernie ever with Jesus? In the first place?
Bernie's an atheist. I mean, he doesn't wear it on his sleeve, but he did say...
But they've both been ministered on the eighth day of their life by the Moyle, the ritual circumciser. I think that's...
Bernie didn't say he's an atheist. He said that his spirituality is about being good to one another.
Well, he actually has said it once. It was in his speech. Was it at Liberty University? He gave a speech at a Christian college. They invited him and he accepted. This was months ago. And he actually, it's the one time I've heard him say it. He did acknowledge his atheism in that speech, when discussing, here's how we're different and here's how we might be the same, etc. But that's the only time I've heard him say it.
You've got to expect these things from godless communists.
Yes, yes.
But when you were saying there's no Christianity, as the current Pope pointed out, the most Christian acting candidate is Bernie Sanders.
Well, we have to remember that the Pope is a Jesuit, and they're known to fib.
Well, also,
they went after our ancestors.
We really don't have to remember that, John.
Well, also, if you ask a Christian conservative, they'll tell you this Pope is a socialist, because when this Pope became Pope, he had the temerity to suggest that human beings should actually, give a crap about each other. And so therefore, immediately, this Pope is a socialist.
He's saying that same crap Jesus used to say.
Exactly, yes.
Well, there you go.
He calls himself a man of God. How dare he?
And what happened to Jesus? He wound up on the cross.
Executed by the state. Yeah. I don't think Jesus would like the death penalty much.
I don't know.
Well, I guess in his case, he kind of had to go along with it. But
hey, let's talk. Tom, I invited Tom Massengale on because he didn't get a chance to rave last week.
Yes.
Now you got a real chance, Tom.
Yeah.
Did she win
that's
Missouri?
Real important to lead off with.
Hey, John, let's see. Hey, let's see picture number 4 for Tom. The old battle axe. The old battle axe took her hatchet. Like, was it Lizzie Borden took her axe?
Yeah.
And gave Bernie 40 whacks. When she saw what she'd done. She gave him another 41. Just,
Not delegates,
we're riffing here.
Did she win? I forgot to check. Did she win Missouri? When I went to bed last night, it was
tie.
Okay.
You're not
Which means she'll get the delegates.
Well,
is that winner take all or no?
No Democrats are winner take all.
Really? None of them are?
Nope.
Okay.
Only Republicans allow their states winner take all.
Oh, okay. Okay. I misunderstood then. All right.
We tried to avoid a Donald Trump.
Right.
Or a Bernie Sanders, right?
Right.
Tom, are you still there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Now look at the tour in Glastonbury. Calm yourself down and give us your impression as an expatriate.
Tom does impressions.
Since we're not going to since we've got a pro-GMO candidate ready to take the Democratic nomination, I think it's important to let everybody know that the Dark Act should be up for a vote today in the Senate.
Well, I doubt that it's going to tell. What is the Dark Act for people that didn't watch last week?
To keep America in the dark by denying the access and right to knowledge. And that means not labeling GMO products clearly as containing GMO ingredients.
Well, let's get to Donald Trump, since Tom took his.
Donald Trump actually probably will be for labeling.
Donald Trump.
I remember you mentioning that before, Tom. Yeah, has he said he's for labeling?
he spoke. I can't remember the quote exactly, so I don't want to go on the record about it. But yeah, he spoke with an openness toward the labeling movement.
Huh, okay.
Hey, John, can we see 1A? Picture
Which, to
1A.
be honest, if you're not beholden to
Here he
the
is.
TMA,
Right.
On September
you'd be an
20th,
idiot to go against the voters.
2017. There's something called Congress, Tom, and the Supreme Court. King Trump, he is the king of the Republican Party now. You've been following him more closely than I can. Because
Yes.
To me, he seems like Patty Chayefsky was the only person to win 3 Oscars, screenwriting, by himself.
Yeah.
And they were all satires like Network and The Hospital. And he wrote Marty, which wasn't a satire.
Isn't he more like the Dark Knight of the Republican Party?
Well, we're talking about it's like a Patty Chayefsky movie.
I mean, he's taken over. He's obviously not representing us, but he is representing the disenfranchised people.
Well, let's see 1B, the average the Trump voters, John. There we go again. They seem to come to these rallies, don't they?
They do. I've seen them at some of Trump's early events.
Not much diversity there other than a hair color.
Right.
And I have to show one more thing. The ultimate statement about Trump and immigration. Can we see 1C? 2/3 of Trump's wives are immigrants, proving once again we need immigrants to do jobs most Americans won't do.
You know what's funny about that? In one of the debates, he was asked about, because he had or one of his companies had a hotel or something, and they hired a bunch of French,
the Poles,
Polish immigrants who were undocumented. And his explanation during the debate was, well, in this case, we had to do it because there was nobody else to fill those jobs, and we would have had to close our doors. And I'm sitting there watching this thinking, well, yeah, that's part of my whole pro-immigration argument right there. At least he's admitting the truth for this 1 second, but it totally undercuts his argument that we need to round everybody up and send them home. We need them.
Donald Trump was pro-choice to 2009.
Mm-hmm.
Now he said during one of the debates he's pro-life.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, I was watching it with somebody, and they turned to me and said, how many abortions do you think Donald Trump paid for in his career?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
He's a guy like Pete Rose. When I saw Pete Rose, the only time I saw Pete Rose, I was in Las Vegas at a dinner house with Victoria, was from Russia. She had no idea who Pete Rose was. So I had to explain, it's the Pele of baseball. Because even though Pele's like Babe Ruth, and soccer is the sport. So she understood.
Yeah.
He just my mother had Alzheimer's disease, and she thought Pete Rose from the 75 World Series was a Red Sox. Eventually he became part of the Red Sox team.
Okay.
And she was very angry that he got banned from baseball and that. You couldn't explain to her that, Noma, he was not the Red Sox. So, we didn't even
You
really
saw that
know
he endorsed Trump, right?
Yeah, he did endorse Trump. But the fact
He
is,
roasted.
you go get like a...
2 days ago.
I got him to sign something.
And he signed him a baseball.
Okay, remember what we said, Tom. I know there's might be
let's
some
keep
lag.
talking about your mother. You're right.
And no, it's like, I know, poor Bonnie. You steamrollered her. Of course, we all steamrolled her. But I got the thing from my mother, and he writes down, what is it? 4256. His number of hits. He wants to put Hall of Fame on it.
Oh, yeah.
But, he's just glowering and everything.
Yeah.
Then suddenly the showgirl, which, quote unquote possible hooker, shows up.
Right.
Big smile on his face. I've never seen Pete Rose smile in my life. But that's Pete Rose.
Yeah. Huh.
He's a lot bigger. He looks like he could have played baseball. This was like almost 10 years ago.
Actually,
he looks like he could take in the field then. And what is he, Tom? 75?
Yeah,
He'll
he's
be
in his
75 on
mid-70s,
April 14th.
Yeah.
He shares the same birthday as Julie Christie.
Oh, okay.
We won't get into her. That'll be our own. That'll be my special.
We wish
show.
we
I've missed meeting Julie Christie 3 times, but once by one day. We won't go. Like I said, that'll be my own special.
Her most famous scene, I don't think you can show on this program.
Hey,
she lives
we
out
might.
here in the West Country.
We'll be banned afterwards. And it had to be Donald. What's his face? Hey, let's talk about the Hillary. And did you see, Tom, where she attacked Bernie Sanders for not being there for her when she was promoting her own health care reform?
Single-payer health care.
Can we see the picture, number 5?
The exact kind of health care that she's arguing against now.
I'd like to Bernie Sanders with thanks for your commitment to real health care access for all Americans. Now, she was in New Hampshire with Dick Sweat, the former congressman from the 2nd Congressional District, and Bernie. And she's thanking Bernie Sanders personally in a video.
Well, Hillary's relationship with the truth is tenuous at best. So, I mean, remember that thing where she was talking about this was back in 2008 when she was running. They landed in the helicopter. I forget where it was, and they were under gunfire, and they were in danger, and they were fearful for their lives. And
but
turned out it was all BS.
I've never been in a combat zone, so in a situation.
But why are we saying
I've been on the Lower East Side in the early '80s.
What we're pointing out, she said they weren't met by greeters on the tarmac, and they were running from the bullets. And wait, John, before you dismiss this. And we've seen the footage of her walking out. There's a little 9-year-old girl who gives her flowers, and everyone shakes her hand, and they're all smiling.
That is so inconsequential when you talk about a politician's whopping lies.
Right, but this is the problem with the Clintons.
They're pathological.
And what is
they
the
run away
problem
from
with
truth.
somebody like
if they have an opportunity to lie, they'll take it at every opportunity.
It's pathological. Yep.
But
they're friggin' hillbillies.
No, they're not She's not a hillbilly, and he's a Rhodes Scholar. The fact
I know he is.
And Trump doesn't lie, right? Neither does Cruz, Rubio.
Oh, they're all liars. That's why I vote independent. They're all liars.
With that woman.
And if they weren't, we discussed earlier today, Tom. A politician has to be a prostitute, a whore, or they're not going to wield any power or influence. And Bernie's not a prostitute.
Mm.
And
you realize that Bill, when he was in office, was disbarred for 5 years?
Who?
Bill Clinton.
Oh, no, we're not getting into Bill Clinton today.
His license to practice law was suspended for 5 years.
Jesus Christ.
President of the United States.
Tom, I got a button there. You're talking about irrelevancies. You're supposed to be talking about, I brought you on to talk about the election, not a bunch of meaningless stuff.
It's a coronation. It's not an election.
Lester, let's, okay.
Well,
hey, let's see number 6. We want to lighten this up. We've got a curmudgeonly Bernie fan. Hey, there's look at there's the Democratic donkey, and he doesn't look happy. I wonder who's in the rear of that pantomime donkey. I guess Hillary's in the front now. That's where we get to. Notice whenever she gets ahead, she gets arrogant and she starts screwing up.
Yeah.
I bet I was surprised he didn't win Illinois.
There's about 7 or 8 jokes in that whole thing, none of which are appropriate for this time of day, unfortunately. But
yeah, but I come on after Rich Girard at one time. So sometime in the night. I'm after Girard at large. You know?
Oh, yes.
It used to be after Mansterdam.
Yes.
I think I don't know what they did with their slot.
I don't either. I keep meaning to check.
I put in for a radio show.
But I'll tell you, the viewers are really interested in this.
What?
The viewers are very interested in
this. They're riveted.
They really want to hear you talk about Bill Clinton being disbarred back in 2000. Jeez.
Well, you're the one who put up a picture of him and Monica Lewinsky on his lap holding a cigar today.
That was to you, not my friends, not publicly.
I was going to say, I don't remember that pic.
Tom, you're getting close to being... What do you... You're fired.
The hook.
Let's see. Hey, let's see number 3. Reagan is brass bankrupt. Now, this is Ronald Reagan.
Wow.
And it says Red as Lieutenant Brass Bancroft. This was a serial, B Movies. I think he was at Fox at that point. And B Movies. And when he was president... and they let the fool go out and actually talk, he would start regurgitating parts of Brass Bancroft movies.
He did?
And we would be at the, in our unit, we would be watching this and kind of be wondering, this is the person we're reporting to.
No kidding, really? He would just repeat dialogue from the movie?
He was senile. After he got shot, they put 9 pints of blood in him, and at least 4 were cold. And he suffered massive damage, probably brain damage, too. And he probably had mild cognitive impairment. When I saw him at West High in 76, he was definitely not all there.
Wow.
And a friend of mine, Lee Brotherton, his mother interviewed for St. Louis Globe Democrat Dutch in 76. I remember Lee telling me around 80 that he was senile. So you had a senile president going on television, giving press conferences and spouting gibberish.
We're
And go
bombing
look
the
at the
Russians
history
in
books.
5 minutes.
Go online.
Yeah.
Find out about, the minstrel show in blackface.
John, tell them about the dog in the helicopter.
What dog in the helicopter?
I don't know this story.
When they knew that they needed to stop Dutch from making off-the-cuff comments to the press.
Oh, yeah, so they always would let the press...
And they had it almost eliminated, but the place they were still having trouble was as he crossed came across the White House lawn from the helicopter back to the house. So they did two things. They kept the rotors running, and with the press at a distance, so even though they were shouting, he'd cup his ear as if he couldn't hear. But all the while, he had a little tiny dog that they bought him, and they trained it to always strain the leash. So he put on this performance as if this little tiny dog was pulling him into the White House, and he'd like to stop and talk, but he can't because his dog was overpowering.
Wow.
The dog couldn't have pulled a gerbil across the lawn.
One of the first
Brilliant.
HBO series.
Genius.
One of the first HBO series was called Tanner, and Robert Altman, one of the great American directors, directed it. And Michael Murphy, who was in a couple of he was in Manhattan with Woody Allen, which we'll get to shortly. He played a candidate, liberal Democrat running for office, and he really screws up.
Yeah.
He doesn't want the press. So what they do is they do just what Tom said. They got him with a helicopter, and then I can't hear the press. But that was the President of the United States.
Wow.
Edmund Morris, a Pulitzer Prize winner, who wrote a Pulitzer Prize winning biography about Teddy Roosevelt, which is the proper pronunciation.
Yeah.
Because FDR, they're fourth cousins, two different branches
Okay.
of that family. And Eleanor was a Roosevelt, but that way they could get married. But getting back to this, and I can't even remember what I was talking about. Hey, let's see. Speaking of Manhattan, what was I talking about? Matt? You're supposed to be here for a reason.
I know, right? I'm supposed to...
What were we talking?
I think we were talking about Prudence Farrow not coming out of the house.
Who didn't come out of the house?
Prudence Farrow, Mia's sister.
Oh, we're talking Beatles now. Hey, this is the Phil. Hey, this is for you people that haven't are just coming in. This is the Philboyd Studge Show.
Yes.
Mr. Studge couldn't be with us today.
Yes, you're
I
guest
wonder
hosting
why.
for Mr. Studge.
Hey, John. Let's see. Speaking of Donald Trump, let's see video number D. This is from a clip from Manhattan.
Has anybody read that Nazis are going to march in New Jersey, I read this in the newspaper. We should go down there, get some guys together, get some bricks and baseball bats and really explain things to them.
There is this devastating satirical piece on that on the op-ed page of the Times. It is devastating.
Well, a satirical piece in the Times is one thing, but bricks and baseball bats really gets right to the point.
Oh, but really biting satire is always better than physical force. Think of
No,
that.
physical force is always better with Nazis because it's hard to satirize a guy with a Chinese...
It is hard to satirize a guy in high shiny boots.
Marco Rubio had different kind of... He had those boots with the lifts, the little booties.
What is he about? Was he under 6 feet tall?
Oh, yeah. Marco Rubio, yeah. I think he's a dwarf.
Well,
He
you're
seemed
talking.
to be out
I'm
of
I'm very sensitive about my height.
Oh, he's a little guy.
When I'm sure the viewers have seen when I get off the seat, I have to hop off. The head's barely up the air. But we're debating, and if somebody'd call in, whether to run the minstrel show again.
I'll be honest with you. I texted Jen and I said, "Are you watching Ward 13?" And she missed the beginning, and I said, "You missed quite the intro."
Now, John, I gave you two videos. The first one that's A is an MPG. Why don't we start off the half hour with that again? Oh, it's not compatible. So we did do.
Oh.
Well, we will put it on the
I'd like to see it again.
Facebook. Hey, let's see it again. Tom isn't being cooperative. Welcome to the Philboyd Studge Show.
Why don't we see if we can get Donald Trump on the phone?
Jeez.
Do you have his number? Do you have the hotline?
Let's call
I'll have
his
to call Joe
headquarters.
Lavassa.
Oh, does he?
Joe knows his son.
Donald, the Donald Jr.
So we're taking a vote that we're going to watch the inaugural again.
Well,
I'd rather not.
All right.
Okay, thumbs. Hey, can we get number? Holy hell, 0D. Picture 0D. I think John is.
Wait, don't take down Trumpy.
No, we're just going to have zero picture, 0D. We took a vote.
Yes.
Our show is dying. Somebody call in.
It doesn't matter how we voted, though. The superdelegates ultimately decide.
I think we've run out of gas.
Are we out of superdelegates? Oh.
We're out of gas today.
John, how could you not be a superdelegate?
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Thumbs down.
Yes.
Thumbs down to racism.
I agree. I'm with you.
I thought Trump was a joke until that modified, the Mussolini salute.
Yeah.
Is that true? Did he really tell people to do that?
I don't know. I'm skeptical about that.
I'd like to believe it, so I'll say yes.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got a menu for, I got to go on a diet for Chinese food. I'm not, after this show, though, I'm not, because of this show, I'm not going to mention the restaurant.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to hold up my public service announcement either.
Oh, you have a public service announcement?
I do, but I'm toying with it.
Oh, okay.
Let's call Don Gordon.
Tom,
is he from
where is the passion? Did Bernie losing 5 contests yesterday take the expletive deleted out of you?
Well,
did he lose everything? So he lost everything
them all.
yesterday? Okay.
Lost them all.
Okay. Lost them all. But he lost those southern states big time.
Well, I figured he would, in the South. Like I always say, they're not going to vote for the Jewish guy.
Why? Florida has a large Jewish population that votes Democratic.
Florida's not the South. Florida's like its own planet.
That's like, used to be Miami back when I was a kid. I haven't been to Florida since 1976. Always hated it.
I've never been.
My father would always take us there for a vacation.
What about Orlando?
What?
Who hates Orlando? How can you hate Orlando?
Orlando had 100,000 people and a bunch of stands where they sold stuffed alligators back in 1971.
Come on now, take your inner child down to Orlando.
My old man would never take us to a Disneyland.
Come on, Busch Gardens.
Yeah.
I've never been to Disneyland or Disney World.
I never have either. Even when I was a kid, I wouldn't have wanted to do that. It wouldn't have been interesting to me.
It costs a fortune and your feet get worn out.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't want to do that.
Christ, this show's going downhill fast, huh?
No,
hey, let's start it out with Dale Evans. Maybe we should show the Roy Rogers one.
All right, let's talk about political scandals.
No, I would like to talk. We had the pantomime donkey. Hey,
John,
we have number 8, Stinky. You can always talk about Gerard.
That's true.
You're starting to go to sleep.
What do you mean?
John?
You have a guest today? We can call him and get him on.
I'm wide awake.
John,
I do have a guest
today,
Michael.
Can you explain Travelgate to us?
Jesus
what?
Christ.
I didn't even hear that. What was that, Tom?
I'm wondering if John would explain Travelgate to us.
I'm wondering if you'd explain Bernie Sanders being a presidential elector for the Socialist Workers' Party in 1980. Go ahead.
Yeah, well,
explain.
there you go.
What's the Socialist Workers' Party, Tom?
You've explained it 36 years ago.
All irrelevant.
36 years ago.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders said things and did things that he wouldn't do today. Unlike the rest of us, I'd like to point out.
And what did he say 30 years ago?
Unlike Hillary Clinton, for example.
He supported the Iranian Revolution 36 years ago.
She supported Goldwater.
She's
come on. Why are we going
a 16-year-old girl. Come on, Tom. Be real. I know you're talking about a guy born in 1941.
Let me tell you something. When I was 16, if Goldwater had been a candidate when I was 16, that it's just not in the realm of possibility.
Bernie Sanders was 39 years old. It's 1964 is a different era, too.
So what?
Yeah, people change.
I don't trust a man who isn't a liberal in his youth.
We have dead air time. You Bernie people are really scraping the bottom of the barrel, I have to say.
You have a picture of Hillary with the crown on.
We don't have one.
I feel the burn a little bit. Or it could just be prostatitis, but I like burning.
Or hemorrhoids.
Or hemorrhoids. I hope not. Oh, boy, that's no fun.
Particularly after a
right, let's go on the
Mexican
record.
meal.
Yes.
Let's go on the record. Who's going to be president? John?
Donald Trump.
I believe it's going to be Hillary.
Hillary. Absolutely.
Hey, somebody attacked me on Joe Kelly-Lavasser's Facebook page.
Yeah?
I can't remember exactly what it was about. It had to do something with Trump.
Okay.
Joe is fighting, the good fight against the Move On people and the Bernie people that are going to Trump rallies and exercising their First Amendment rights.
Yeah.
But I guess they are private events.
Right.
What can you do? Good beating to a black man on TV is something to be defended in 2016.
Well, Trump says he'll pay their legal fees. If somebody gets caught beating somebody up, I'll pay your legal fees. Don't worry about it.
Well, didn't he say to punch people?
Oh yeah. It's bizarre.
So one of the people that took me to
the
task.
bizarre thing is that it's not hurting his campaign.
Not a bit. No.
Well, since he's
what does that say about us?
Trump.
It says about America, not us.
Right. That's what I mean by the collective us.
Oh, now we're good.
Yeah.
Now we're getting revived.
I feel
There we
revived.
go.
Yes. Trump revives us. No, Trump is like.
Seatbelts, ladies and gentlemen.
What's that?
This is the Philboyd Studge Show. Hey, can we have Philboyd Studge in the back again? And then we'll go back to Trumpy Cat. There he is.
There he is, our boy Philboyd.
I have a feeling that this franchise is not going to find purchase, that this is actually fallow ground for the Philboyd Studge.
Really? You think it's...
what the hell can you do?
The network isn't going to pick up the pilot?
I think it's the orange coat. Joel Elber. Call in. The boys, they got the radio show and everything.
Yeah, they're doing great. Yeah.
And I think they ran off with the orange coat. But let's go back to Trumpy Cat, which
have
you
you
gave
written,
the name.
John, have you contacted WOR in New York?
Ever since Gene Shepard, they took him off in '77. I don't listen to WOR.
This show is every bit as good as the old Joe Franklin show.
Okay. We're talking about, so I'm on Joe Lavassa's site,
Yeah.
and some guy, a guy named Joe Briggs.
Yeah, I remember Joe Briggs. He used to have a show at the old studio.
Right. Well, he's living in Georgia now.
Yeah.
And he was saying, do you denounce all forms of racism, including Zionism? Oh, boy. That type of argument usually is from an anti-Semite. And then you'll call them on it, and they'll say, I don't hate Arabs. I mean, this was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I quoted him, there's a proverb in the Bible. The Old Testament does come in handy when dealing with such people.
Yeah.
That, I think it goes like this. The fool doesn't speak, and he's considered wise. If he keeps his trap shut, he might be considered discerning and intelligent. And I said to Joe Briggs, you and I both keep our mouths going, and we reveal who we really are.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I figured, what the hell.
Hold on, gentlemen.
But he lived in Georgia, and let's have picture number 7. The 1972 presidential candidate of the American Independent Party. Lester Maddox and William D. Dyke. Lester Maddox was a restaurateur in Atlanta. He had a restaurant called the Pickricks. And he became governor of Georgia when he took an axe handle and chased African Americans out of his restaurant.
Oh, jeez, really?
He was the governor before Jimmy Carter.
Wow.
I thought he played right field for the Yankees.
That's Elliot Maddox, you idiot. He's waiting. You'll be back in the baseball show. I don't know about politics anymore. Bernie's burned out. His passion is gone. Lester Maddox. So he's fitting for Joe Briggs to be, he could go look where the Pickricks was.
Yes.
It was. I was down there in the 70s. You got to remember, like Jimmy Carter and Bill Clinton, they were refutations to that type of Dixiecrat.
Yeah.
But with Ronald Reagan exorcised the ghost of Abraham Lincoln for the Republican Party. Because when I used to go down there, 70s, they'd still be, I was going to use the B word, they would still be complaining, kvetching about the Republican Party, about damn Yankees. But then Ronald Reagan embraced racism fully.
Yep.
His first speech after the nomination was in Philadelphia, Mississippi, at the Mississippi State Fair. Philadelphia was famous. 16 years earlier, 3 civil rights workers were lynched, murdered, and buried in an earthen dam. And the FBI had to go down there and find out who it was.
Yeah.
Interestingly, how they broke it. There was a movie made about it, Mississippi Burning.
Oh, yes, yes.
Who really did
I've
break
seen
that
that.
was the B'nai B'rith, the Anti-Defamation League, because of anti-Semitism, because the Klan is always anti-Catholic, anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
Had a built-up, over the years, a group, their own intelligence network.
Yeah.
And they actually got the informers and stuff.
Yeah.
So, because They were always reluctant to use the FBI because the South was solidly Democratic. And if you send the FBI to go after racists in Mississippi, you're going to piss off James Eastland, who's one of the most powerful. He's the Armed Services Committee. Well, and just a racist to the core.
Well, so what was in Reagan's speech?
States' rights. He gave a speech in favor of states' rights. States' rights is
Which
a code word for
at that time.
segregation.
Yeah.
And Ronald Reagan beat Pat Brown in 1966. Pat Brown crushed Richard Nixon on a wave against fair housing laws. And one thing I'll say about Barry Goldwater, which Tom doesn't, there were the first riot of what would become the long, hot summers was in 64 in New York City. Very small compared to what would Watts, Detroit, and that. And he refused to capitalize on it. He wouldn't play that card, Tom.
Wow.
Well,
Give
he did.
that man
Would
a
they?
gold star.
Would they not? Would they not?
Depends who we're talking about. Would Trump?
Goldwater did not play the card. He also defended
Trump
gays in
would.
the military. I'm no Barry Goldwater fan.
Yeah, that's true. I remember, in fact, it was Hillary Clinton once who quoted him and said, this was in 2008 during the debates, she said, as Barry Goldwater said, you don't have to be straight to shoot straight.
Right, he was a major general in the Air Force Reserves.
Yeah.
I didn't believe in his philosophy or anything.
And actually,
He was a friend of
the
JFK.
same has been said about Hillary Clinton, I believe.
Hey, here's a story for you guys. I remember being in Los Angeles at my ex's, I went to see the parents, and she admitted to me, says, if we have children, John, they're going to be related to Orrin Hatch. her great grandfather and his grandfather.
No
and
kidding.
I thought about it, and this is what I told her. Why, Orrin Hatch is a good friend of Teddy Kennedy. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I remember her mother saying, "Oh, I had a grandfather who was a Democrat once." That's when the Republican Party was still big in California.
This show is getting better and better, guys.
There you go.
It does, because I care enough to share my personal reminiscences of bigotry, hatred, right-wing senators, and all the, what makes America America? Lynchings, anti-intellectualism, proto-fascism. The House Un-American Activities Committee was called the Dyes Committee, the Dyes-McCormick Committee. It was formed in '36 to go after neo-Nazis like the Silver Shirts.
Yeah.
But then it switched over to go after communists.
Yeah.
America's never been the same since, Bernie Sanders and the like. After the USSR collapsed, what's there to do? You become a Kennedy liberal, right?
Did you see Trump in Ohio call Bernie Sanders his communist friend?
He's never a party member, Tom.
But did you see Trump say it? It was hilarious.
Oh yeah, he calls him a communist.
But then he said
he was a member of the Socialist Party, I think. But the
old
old Norman
said,
Thomas.
at least Bernie Sanders supporters have some fervor.
And by the way, the SWP was anti-Moscow. CP-USA, the Communist Party USA, was controlled by Moscow. That's when they have these things about the Hollywood 10. They always leave out the fact all those guys were actual communists. And then they were under party discipline. And John Howard Lawson, who was their chief apparatchik in Hollywood, was run by Gerhard Eisler, who was a Comintern agent and an assassin and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
His brother was was a very famous composer, and his sister was another agent. It was, those were interesting days back then.
Yeah.
The communists hated FDR, untold.
Yeah, but let's talk about politics that people care about.
Well, you want to talk about Bill Clinton getting disbarred. Hey,
did you get DSW's number at the bar?
That's a handsome cat.
We have a call.
We do.
Hello
and welcome to the Philboyd Studge Show. Breathe some life into our show.
Is this Rich Gerard?
I would love to. I would love for you to rethink the idea of states' rights. That states' rights isn't about segregation.
Well,
if it was for the efforts of states' rights, some of the changes that you've talked about that you're in favor of, like same-sex marriage, wouldn't be where it is today.
That's federalism you're talking about. States' rights was a code word.
At that time. At that time, states' rights, that phrase was used as code for segregation.
Trent Lott was a member of what's called the Citizens Council of Mississippi. That was a pro-segregationist group. And William Rehnquist, in the 1964 election, when he worked the polls for Barry Goldwater, his task was to Stop Negroes from registering, which was the word they used.
Wow.
So that's just what
pretty
was
intense.
used.
But we should change the dialogue. We should encourage people to stand up and utilize our state rights to change federal regulations that are usurping our rights as citizens.
Well, that's true because we were talking about the GMO
That's only
labeling.
become necessary because the federal government has become so oppressive since then.
Are you still there?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm here, but I couldn't
in
hear what you said.
GMO labeling, we were talking about earlier in the Philboyd Studge Show that there is a bill pending for Congress which will stop Vermont and other states from mandating the labeling of products with genetically modified organisms in it.
Right.
I can understand people wanting to know what it is that they're consuming, but we don't need to. We shouldn't demonize the entire GMO community, because if it wasn't for some of their scientific breakthroughs, people living in areas of the world where there are little food are now eating better because genetically modified wheat and things of that nature have been altered to grow in their environment and feed their people.
That's what my uncle says.
Most of that is a myth.
Well, that's another. Let's just leave that one for another show. But the idea we're talking about is states' rights and federalism, and how Republicans who are ostensibly for states' rights in a federal system are the people that are trying to get rid of Vermont, Connecticut,
well,
Maine.
If we're going to go after Republican history, then we need to go after Democratic history. There were 3 incidences in which Congress tried to amend the United States Constitution to forbid the marriage of interracial marriage, one of which was based on a drop of blood made you black.
Right.
All 3 of those initiatives came from the Democratic Party.
Because
each party has some nastiness in their past.
Yes, but the Democratic Party, you're talking about Southern Democrats who are now Republicans.
Yeah, the Dixiecrats.
The Solid South was Democratic and it was racist to the core. It's now Republican.
Democrats and sit there and attack Republicans. Let's be fair in the discussion.
But the thing is, Ronald Reagan changed the Republican Party when he embraced racism and states' rights.
This is Ward
I do not believe that Ronald Reagan embraced racism.
Well, what would you consider being against fair housing? What would you consider not having any black cabinet members except one that you don't even recognize?
I didn't know about that speech that Reagan did.
What would you
I don't know about that either.
Look it up.
I believe
know
it.
That I would want to hire the best of the best, and I wouldn't care what color or creed or creation they are or belief system they are, as long as they are the best of the best.
We'll go back to Nixon. Nixon tried to put 2 Supreme Court justices that were pro-segregation. And
let's talk about a guy who lied and got impeached. Nah, that's okay.
John,
you and Tom ought to get together. Hey, well, it was nice hearing from you. We're going to
thanks, Jen.
Take care. I have a few stories I could tell you off air.
This is Ward 13. We insult Republicans. It's what we do.
I bet. But go back to states' rights and encourage people to utilize them for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Okay, we will. Take care.
All right.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize what that term used to mean. You know, that it was code for. I mean, I suppose in a literal sense, it's always meant letting states do their own thing. Right. But of course, it did. During the. I mean, when did that see? But I didn't realize though that as recent as 1981. That's when Reagan gave that speech, right? Because it was
1980.
Oh, when he was the nominee.
September 1980.
See, I didn't realize
as
recently as that term was still being used in that way. That I didn't realize.
It was. It's still used in the South now.
Is it? See,
we're having a rollback of the Voting Rights Act.
Yeah.
And the Civil Rights Act of '64.
Yeah.
The '68 Act, which was.
Washington at that time was a much more progressive place than it is today. Even Dutch Reagan was a progressive compared to the people we've got going into office now.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, even, and I've heard it said too, and I agree Nixon would be considered a liberal today.
Right.
Well, Nixon didn't care about domestic policy.
Look, Hillary Clinton uses Nixon's old Secretary of State as a sounding board in teacher.
Kissinger?
That's true, but Bernie really kind of smacks her down for it during the debates, which is fun to watch.
He's a war criminal.
Oh, I hated watching that. That was painful.
Oh, watching Sanders smack her down?
Well,
I thought it was great.
Everybody, when they in the in the 70s, everybody thought that Peter Sellers based Dr. Strangelove on Kissinger.
Yeah.
But that's not true.
Really?
Because Kissinger was... If you watch... There's another movie that came out the same year, 1964. It's called Failsafe. And then Walter Matthau plays a expert in mutual assured destruction.
Yeah.
And Kissinger had touched a little on that, too,
What?
when he was at Harvard.
Yeah.
You know, Realpolitik. And that's loosely based on him. But actually... Strangelove is based on a photographer named Ouija. You've heard of Ouija, right?
Yeah.
The famous photographer who took pictures in New York in the 40s and 50s. Famous street scenes with the big, what was it called? The Graphics camera? You know, the big camera.
Yeah,
And if you
okay.
look at the Daily News, they still have, like, the icon. For
Yeah.
it. And he had this strange voice.
Huh.
And so Peter Sellers just virtually made it up.
Oh,
you know?
okay. Okay.
But it's universal, you know.
Yeah.
But, interestingly, Peter Sellers and Henry Kissinger shared something in common.
What, Jill St. John?
A giant schlong.
Okay. Now we're really getting...
Oh, my.
John, we're going to have to edit that out. And how would you know that, Mr. Massengale? Hey,
Peter Sellers
that's
was
a handsome
legend.
cat.
And how do you think Henry Kissinger got seen as sexy?
Power is an aphrodisiac. Hey, is that cat
Oh, yeah.
orange? Is that a tabby?
I think that, well, if the cat is supposed to represent Trump, then yes, the cat definitely would have to be orange.
He's got orange hair.
Trump is just orange. He's got orange skin.
He's orange, yeah.
Yeah, he's just a
orange.
big orange dude.
Like Boehner?
It's very strange.
Boehner's orange.
Yeah, Boehner's very sort of tan.
Hey, folks, this is the Philboyd Studge Show. Our last episode. Christ, this went down.
I think the network's going to pick up this pilot.
Tom,
I really do.
Tom, can you sing It Was So Sad When the Big Ship Went Down? At the Titanic. I think you sang that back in '78 when the Red Sox lost Game 163. The baseball show can't come fast enough.
It was
Really?
sad when the great ship went down.
Jeez, so
I'll have to sit that one
we're
out.
hitting a new low in afternoon television here in Manchester.
I don't know anything about baseball.
You've got to come to the baseball show. Come.
Hey, Joe Lavassa has Chris Sununu on.
Oh, tonight?
Yeah, Chris
good.
Sununu, who's
Candidate for
John
governor?
E. Sununu's son.
Yes.
I went to fetch him for the radio show, and I figured he'd be as short as his father. And as I went down the stars, he started getting taller, which I mentioned to him.
Yeah.
He's a really nice guy.
I've
What do
never
you
met
think
John
about
Sununu.
this?
Is he short?
Oh yeah, he's about like 5'6" or
Okay.
something.
Yeah.
But
Joe, what do you think about this? For the baseball show, get the goose on.
yeah, and my show would be canceled forever. The Goose Gossage, a great reliever with a fierce fastball. He
been
gave
talking to
a
the Russell
expletive-deleted rant the other day. It's always, you get old and you bitch about the younger players.
Right.
I guess
And
that was an
and the
expletive
general
deleted.
manager.
You complain.
Nerds.
You can get away with that word, I think.
Nerds have taken over the game.
I got to ask John about. I have a poster from a movie for the baseball, but if I can actually use that on TV. But that's
Can we
another
get John
thing.
Reese on?
Tom, you're going to have to reorient yourself, get some new whatever it is, because you were supposed to be talking about Bernie Sanders today.
Right, but you guys have nothing to talk about Bernie.
He wants to talk about Bill Clinton.
Start me up.
I think Tom's right, though, about the Clintons. They're pathological liars.
They're politicians.
Yeah.
And if they weren't thugs, if they didn't lie, they wouldn't be where they are today.
But I think with them, there's something pathological where they can't help themselves. Because they lie about things they don't need to, right?
Actually,
And Rubio,
Bill, I think
Cruz.
Bill is brilliant.
Does Trump
and he
lie?
could have been a great force in Washington.
Trump lies constantly.
Where is he?
Because people follow
Ronald
him.
Reagan.
He could have been a great force, but he didn't choose to be.
Who didn't choose to be a great
Bill
force?
Clinton.
Bill Clinton was told that if
He
the
chose to be a reactionary,
wasn't a reactionary. That's ridiculous. You're being
Yeah, he
foolish
was.
saying that. That's foolishness. He was told, and it's true.
He was a new.
If
he
the
was
the
new
credit
labor.
markets, the bond market will determine whether you're reelected as president. What do you think Wall Street is? You lived in New York.
Yep.
Wall Street is America. The business of America is business. That's
Right,
that's the
it's
God's
gone
honest
too-
truth.
Who said?
John,
I forget
it's
which
gone
which
too
Calvin
president.
far.
Coolidge.
Coolidge, yeah.
You can't be so cynical. It's gone too far. Things
can
in
you not be?
America.
It's reality.
We have no more.
Hey,
no
we got
more
3 minutes
middle
left.
class.
We're
we
going
have no
to
consumer
end.
class to keep
Tom,
the economy alive.
Tom, you ever be on a movie set? You directed a movie. You could come back. And talk
Did
about the movie.
did you see the interview with the guy who?
Okay, Tom, we are going to
on?
end. Tom, okay, you can
I'm
bitch
gonna
on the.
shut-
I mean, you can come back.
Did you see?
Come on, John, we're
did you
going to
see
end
the
with
interview
E.
with the guy who Gordon
E.
Gekko was based on?
The show is a bomb, and that's how we're going to end.
Tom's like a bulldozer. He just keeps going. But stick around for Unleashed.
Target distance 7 miles. Correct track indicator -7.
Roger, 7 miles. Set GPI acceleration factor. GPI acceleration factor set.
Target distance 6 miles.
Roger, 6 miles. Pulse ident transponder active. Pulse ident transponder active.
Target distance 5 miles.
5 miles. Homing alignment factor, 0 mode. Homing alignment factor to 0 mode.
Target distance 4 miles.
Roger, 4 miles. Auto CDC into manual teleflex link. Auto CDC into manual teleflex link.
Target distance 3 miles.
Roger, 3 miles. Target in sight. Where in hell is Major Kong? Hey, what about Major Kong?